take a stake in that security and to test it out. Yes. There are certain, as a service provider, there are certain industries that we are getting involved with that are pushing us for things like TLS or secure RTP. And therefore we turn around and push our vendors to provide that, right? Again, there are definitely certain industries that are going that way. I think when you talk to the real security geeks, the guys get paid every day to worry about nothing but security, and is anybody hijacking signaling? Is anybody hijacking RTP? Are they spoofing IPs and getting right? When you sit down, they will absolutely tell you that we as a service provider in the next year or two have got to do and support TLS and secure RTP. I mean, I definitely feel like that's where we're going with it. It's just a matter of when everybody else is ready. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yes.
So where we see it really taking off is overseas. So if you look at TLS and SRTP in the U.S., we see a tiny bit. You walk around New York, you'll see it, a tiny bit down there. But if you go over to Korea, the markets in Asia, it's a requirement in a lot of those networks. We've been in a whole bunch of bids, and we're deployed in a bunch of large networks over there where it is a requirement. We've been doing it for a while. Unfortunately, we did it too early. We did it before we could sell it. Now we're actually selling it. But we're seeing it take off, and in Europe is the other place where it's really starting to take off. If you look at some of the laws in Germany in particular, they're mandating that TLS comes into play, and SRTP comes in underneath that. And the other one that you didn't mention that we're seeing more and more of is DTLS. Sort of as a companion to that, but that's more future-looking, I think. So I think it's, in the markets, I think where voice, and particularly voice endpoints, so in the U.S., you don't see a lot of independent hosted voice endpoints over here. You had Vonage and, guys like that. You got some notable large ones, but in Europe, it's pretty much ubiquitous. It's, everywhere over there. And those are the markets, Europe and Asia, that are taking off much quicker. And I hear it's true in CALA as well. Yeah, we're even seeing it from guys doing DSL over in Europe. They're private lease line DSL things. They're running it, over a DSL connection that's almost a VPN, nailed-up VPN connection. They're doing TLS and SRTP over them as well. I think it's a country-by-country, thing that's getting regulated out. And some of these countries are a little bit further ahead.
Yeah, Vodafone is doing it in Portugal. They are offering VoIP as a fixed line service to get into the fixed line business, and that's what they are doing. Yeah.
So that's a company to company. So if you talk to the guys, if you walk down to New York, even though there's a VPN up, there's still untrusted networks within that VPN. So a lot of companies deploy VPN as site-to-site security. Then there's ethical firewalls within the site. Brokers and traders, or bankers and traders, and things like that, where they don't want eavesdropping in that tunnel. So bulk encrypting the tunnel isn't like encrypting the individual sessions. Right? So there's still a lot of calls. One large company we're working with over in Asia runs exactly that way: private network, MPLS, encrypted, VPNs, but it's still TLS and SRTP point-to-point inside there. So I think you get into a lot of, philosophy at that point in time and how secure they want it to be. A lot of people really believe that, nobody could ever listen to their voice call if it was TDM, right? Go into the wiring closet, right? Banana clips. It's probably easier to, pick up somebody's TDM call than it is to snoop on a VoIP call. But, you want to give them that level of security in there. So that's where we see it take off. And like I said, even if there's a VPN there, we still see a lot of guys doing it.
I was going to say one other thing. I'm having the same experience as you guys. Sonus has TLS. RTP for some time, has RTP changes domestically. But where we're getting pushed by the standards purists to use IPsec. That's mandated, like in the PCSCS and you have to provide both. Like you say, because when I went to beta, to be very honest, when I went to beta with TLS and SecurityP, I had a real tough time finding endpoints to test with. But yet they said they had to have it. So I said, okay. So we got both. We got the pragmatic IETF side, but not much, certainly domestically, and then the IMS high-span, advocates who want IPsec, certainly for signaling, and they've even pushed this for me. Anything else?
No, I would wrap up only again from a service provider perspective. One of the big things that we take on and take responsibility for is putting up network monitoring, right? So real-time monitoring for things like denial of service attacks, right? I think if you're going to be a service provider, and you're going to have an edge, you have to have the ability to monitor that edge, to know if somebody's coming in with a denial of service attack. So whether it's your SBC who's doing that and reporting those things to you, or you have some third-party tool inside of your network sitting there listening and monitoring for that too. So I think that's
have you seen our Tivoli integration yet?
I have seen yours. Yes.
So, just as a public service announcement, there are formal presentations that we put together that'll be posted on the VPF website. Okay. So, let's see. We got a few more minutes, and since I control the gavel, I want to pick this one question, and then we'll finish up. So we'll get through here. This was sent to me by a telecom director for one of the U.S. states. And what they were planning on doing was running VoIP over their existing private network, state of X, pick one, Texas, whatever. They say, what do you do? And what I found out talking with them is that second sub-bullet was pretty key. It says sharing the common infrastructure is both a bug and a feature. And in the sense here, it says sharing the infrastructure between things that can go slow, like reading your email, things that are kind of customer sensitive, like reading web pages, and real-time session-based. And VoIP is a two-edged sword. It's good because you can advertise the investment of your backbone, but also I've seen cases where, and this is where Ken, I agree with him, where you have a bad network design or a device gone haywire, chewing up bandwidth, even though you have QoS, even though you use VPNs, even though you use VLANs, it can still happen. So subsequently, it's both a bug and a feature. And then, hence, just to plug what has already been said, the third bullet, security is straightforward if they deploy best practices. And my own little soapbox, it all starts out with a well-defined security policy. Once again, real quick studio audience poll here. For those who are carriers, how many of you have a security policy for your network? Not just the IP core. Okay, what else? Okay. Because